Okay, so addition property of equality is when you add the same thing to both sides of the equation. And we'll see this demonstrated in the workbook. For now, we're just writing them down. These should be familiar to you, though. Subtraction property of equality. That's when you subtract something from both sides of the equation to balance it, or to solve for x. Then multiplication property of equality. And last but not least, division property of equality. Okay, so those should be familiar to you. If they don't seem like it right now, when we do the examples, you'll remember it. These are probably completely new. This one is reflexive property of equality. And I'm going to start abbreviating. Reflexive property of equality. And all that means is A equals A, right? Kind of common sense. What's that? Right. Well, I started abbreviating. Just write it out up here and then start abbreviating as you move down. Okay, so reflexive property of equality, A equals A, makes sense, or measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 1. Common sense, right? Then the next property is symmetric property of equality.
Symmetric?
Yes. And what that looks like is A equals B, then B must equal A. Or if measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 2, then measure of angle 2 must equal measure of angle 1. Next one is transitive property. This one's a little bit different. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, I always use Simon, but I'm going to use, Simon is the same height as Paxton. We're just going to say, I know Paxton's tall. Let's say Simon's the same height as Paxton, and Paxton is the same height as Billy. That must mean that Simon's the same height as Billy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the transitive property is. Now when I write it, it's not going to seem as simple, but that's what it is. If Simon's the same height as Paxton, and we know Paxton's the same height as Billy, then Simon must be the same height as Billy. And that's transitive property. When we write it, it's going to look a little bit different, but it's the same concept. If measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 2, and measure of angle 2 equals measure of angle 3, then measure of angle 1 must equal measure of angle 3. And the next one, substitution property. And this one I'm just going to give you an explanation, and then you'll see it in action when we do the workbook. So if A equals B, then A may be replaced by B. That'll make more sense later.
By what?
if A equals B, then A may be replaced by B.
Where B can replace A.
Correct. And the last one, this one you've seen a lot throughout your educational career, distributive property. I'll just write it out because it comes up so much. Distributive property looks like this. You have A times B plus C. To solve this or simplify it, you would distribute the A. A times B would be AB plus A times C, AC. And that's it. So you'll need to keep this out because you're going to use this kind of like an answer bank for the workbook pages and your homework. So just keep this out and then transition over to the workbook. It is page 25.